We continue with analysis on the U.S. electoral outcome. We're joined now by political economist Dr. Lumkile Mondi. Good afternoon, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, Doctor, the media is littered with opinion pieces of what a Trump 2.0 would mean for global conflict, economies and the likes. But before we get to what his win means for all, let's start with just your reaction to his win. All right. Unfortunately, it seems we need to re-establish that line to Dr. Lumkile Mondi, but most certainly today, as we've heard from one commentator after the other, it is, in fact, a historic win, as we've heard from our colleague there, Sharon Bryce-Peace in New York, stating that what we saw today, or at least what the electoral outcome has revealed, is something that hasn't been seen in over 100 years, where it's a president who didn't have a consecutive win, but comes back. So most certainly, the Republicans are quite pleased with themselves. They've done quite a lot. It's been a very grueling campaign for the Republicans. I believe that we have Dr. Lumkile Mondi back on the line. Doctor, your reaction to the electoral outcome in the United States? Doctor, I don't know if you can hear me. Welcome to the program. Just firstly, let's start with your reaction to the electoral outcome. Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
They say make America great again. I think it's a huge opportunity for the American economy to build its own capability, putting America first, putting a lot of protectionism to the detriment, particularly of the EU, who were hoping that the trade between America and the EU will continue being open. So we're going to see quite a very interesting development where American nationalism is going to be the top of the agenda. But I don't think that's going to hurt us that much, given that South Africa has to AGOA trade with America, although important for us. But I don't think that's a big issue for the Americans, given that it's minuscule in relation to how big the economy is.
Doctor, I want to take you quickly to your point around protectionism or protectionist politics, because really this is what we've seen here, where you had a candidate that has articulated the position of really protectionism, that here you put Americans first. And it seems that that kind of a message right now has resonated with the people of America because they've endorsed it, that when it comes to immigration, when it comes to the economy, Donald Trump was a candidate who was saying, whatever policies we're going to put forward must put the interests of America first over any other. And that is what, pardon me, it seems that Americans felt was best for them in a world where we have pro-globalization activists who say protectionism has no place in the world. But it seems in America today, it's proven that it does.
Absolutely. I mean, we have seen how many countries have developed by sharpening their own capabilities. We know that, for example, across many areas, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's electric vehicles, or the broader renewable capabilities that we all talk about, that China is far ahead than many countries in the world, and America is being left behind. It is that fear that many Americans and that Donald Trump has used, that, you know, if we don't sharpen our own pens, we don't close and create our capabilities, create American factories, and bring back many of the offshore factories back to the U.S., we're going to be left behind. And I think if you look in the discussion that we had in Shawi, if you look at the automotive sector states, Ohio, Michigan, the whole transition towards green and the potential job losses are very scary for the Americans. Therefore, there's a lot of expectation that putting America first, putting industries back, making sure that those industries that are labor intensive are kept and America move forward. That's the message that people want to hear. Even here, we see in South Africa as well in our election that there's a whole move of saying how do we sharpen and develop ourselves in an environment whereby others are protecting their own economies. Why aren't we doing the same as well? So this nationalism that we're seeing is reversing all what we knew about globalization, because globalization has been unequal, has created a lot of havoc in developing economies where prices of export goods are far lower, and therefore very little development happens in many developing countries, and as a result, poverty, inequality, unemployment in many countries is the reality that they face. So therefore, the question is, can we go back to the old model of building on capability, coping, and making sure that we protect ours, and then once we are happy with ours, we can talk about open markets. And I think that's what Trump is trying to do, and it resonates with Americans. And I think many Africans, if they are smart, they should be looking at what Trump is trying to do to try and sharpen their own capabilities themselves.
And then to the Democrats showing, I was listening to one commentator a bit earlier on in the day who said if there's one thing that the Democrats need to blame themselves for is disproportionately focusing on fear-mongering. He says the party spent far too much time pushing a message of a Trump machine that needed to be stopped from entering the White House and less on the real issues of inflation, immigration and the likes. What did you make of that campaign?
The real issues, the people's issues. People are concerned about the future of their children. People are concerned about their jobs. People are concerned about their health. So it's all the care issues that matter for Americans that are important. The broader issues, whether it's a war in Ukraine, whether it's trade globally, doesn't matter for Americans. Americans want a government such as the one that Trump is bringing. So there's going to be lower taxes. That's giving more money to people. That will create more demand, meaning that many industries in the American economy will create jobs. Of course, it's going to bring its own complexity around inflation. And you've seen with the bond prices in America, the yield widening because people expect that there'll be high inflation, knowing that Trump is going to create more money by giving money back to people and businesses and reinvestment to create more jobs, and therefore more Americans being employed and high demand. So it is that reflection that you're seeing in the bond prices in America, which reflects that expectation of lower taxes, higher demand, more jobs, and better lives for many Americans. And some makes America great again.
Doctor, some in trying to make sense of this electoral outcome have also thrown in the gender aspect, that you now have two females that have lost to Donald Trump. It's Hillary and now Kamala. Is there much to be said here, or this actually boils down to the indecision that some have spoken of, that the Democrats should have pulled Biden a bit earlier and allowed Kamala to have a good run? Absolutely.
I mean, remember that, it is, as people say, it is a white man's world. And America, after going through Obama as a black president, and now a black woman, something that was going to be very historical, because there's never been a woman in America. Remember, Clinton lost to Trump, although she won the popular vote. She lost the electoral vote, and Kamala was clearly not competitive at all. Because we mustn't forget that, the history matters. People know what it means to be white in America and what it means to succeed. So therefore, when there is threat, which Democrats were trying to push fear-mongering across Americans, people reverted to their default. The default being that, when we're white, masculine, we used to be successful. And therefore, it is looking at Trump, a masculine man, he'll deliver much better option than a black woman who has no track record given the history of America's democracy. It is that has had Democrats of really using 2025 project as a threat, and in doing so, pushing people to that default. And we saw American white women coming in their roles. We saw Latino men coming as well as white men coming to reinforce the masculinity and how white men, whether it's Lincoln and many others, Washington, have delivered to the white population in general in America.
Doctor, in closing, just briefly, the Rand has reacted to a Trump win. It's weakened. Your take on this?
Well, we have to expect it because American economy is really booming. So there's quite a lot of expectation that the American economy will present quite a lot of opportunities for many investors. And we see it also in the gold price. That has lots of value because there's expectation that many of the risks that were foreseen, that is going to be blood war, World War III will be loading, and therefore the world is uncertain. But the Trump victory is providing space to talk peace, to engage as Trump puts America back again and focusing on domestic issues than global issues. So for NATO, for the UN, and many other countries were leaning on the Biden-Kamala global agenda. That agenda is gonna change. That's why the dollar is strengthening. Is saying the times are going to be better for America. It's time to invest in America because taxes are going to be going lower, and therefore more opportunities and more support for business, and therefore more wealth and better development, high economic growth. Hopefully, we'll pull the world along so that South Africa can participate as the Trump administration succeeds in increasing growth, but also making more money available for Americans to invest in South Africa.
Doctor, as always, thank you very much for your insights. That was political economist Dr. Lumkile Mondi.